So, welcome, Sophie Grégoire Trudeau. I am so blessed and excited that you are here with me today in conversation for Shift Happens. It's been a long time in the making, and yay, here we are finally. So, thank you so much for your time. And we talk in Shift Happens about pivotal moments in life and turning points. And you shared already up front a few with me, and of course, I've read your book, and we will talk about that later. But before we get into it, I want to ask you, what is your current state of mind?
Gratitude because you are just one of the very few people who haven't butchered my name pronunciating it. Because Sophie, the Grégoire is very complicated, but because you speak French, right? It was just great to hear. Thank you, thank you for your pronunciation. But my true state of you know of mind and of heart, because now I don't dissociate them both anymore, right?
hmm
I
hmm
think it's a dance between fearlessness and doubt, if I can be raw honest. It's a dance between.
hmm Yeah,
We do live
yeah,
in uncertain times. We really live in uncertain times.
yeah, we really do. Are right. And well said. Um, yes, uncertain times, but there are moments of happiness. What is a moment of happiness for you, or what is a moment of
Ooh.
perfect happiness for you?
Oh, I accumulate them in micro moments all the time. I'm a life lover. I would say the minute I wake up, when I wake up, I'm just like, hey, I get to have another day in this lifetime, in this human body, which is already like a miracle in itself because the percentage of chances that you get to embody a human body, you could have embodied something else, an animal or whatever, right?
hmm
Is so minute. It's so tiny that when I wake up in the morning, even when, there's tougher days than others, or you can have more anxiety on one day than the other, there's something like the child inside of me who still wants to play. So mornings for me are a true moment of happiness. I always light candles. I make breakfast for my kids. Like I smile in the morning and I do my ritual. I take care of myself. It's quick because I don't have lots of time like most parents, but
hmm
I'm very present and I try
hmm
to not project too far in the day.
Very good. Good advice. Who's a living person that you most admire?
Oof. Those questions I always find so difficult because people will tend to think about it like a celebrity, right? Um, but it's not like that for me. I think celebrity is a kind of like a delusion, an illusion, and we have to be very careful with the heroes that we choose. I know a lot of women in my life who have gone through great health challenges and relationship challenges, and I would say that they represent one woman, and you are one. People who are listening are one, and women, we hold the emotional load of our families and of our communities. So I would say that it includes one woman, but that woman includes life itself. So
hmm
all humanity. But I would say
hmm
the ones who let go of their attachment and choose to be authentic in a culture that teaches us the opposite. I really admire people who get to do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, true. Those are actually also real role
Okay, so
models
maybe Tilda
to
Swinton
me.
if you want a celebrity.
Can you say that again? Who?
I said maybe Tilda Swinton if
Oh,
you want somebody who's known.
Tilda Swinton. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool
yeah,
choice. Cool choice.
yeah.
Um, so now to your shifts and I read your book, Closer Together, Knowing Ourselves, Loving Each Other. I really loved the title and what really sprung out to me is your closeness to nature and that has been instilled so early on. But and that maybe fostered a certain resilience, or at least a place where you can always go back to find the power and the resilience. And if I may just read quickly what you noted down, because that's a whirlwind of pivots and a whirlwind of a life. Healing from an eating disorder, raising a family in politics, becoming the unofficial First Lady of Canada, transforming your marriage in the public eye, becoming an author, studying and teaching yoga, and then losing your father and your dear friend, Dale Haddon, just recently.
Our dear friend, Dale Haddon. Yeah.
Yes, our dear friend, Dale Haddon. I mean, Sophie, that's really big, and it's of course, your roles and where life brought you is, particularly intense, and you've been particularly on stage. But I feel that women in general carry a lot. And so your way of describing in your book how important it is to know ourselves, to be able to really love. It's the eternal message.
It's the eternal message. It's after the end and before the beginning. It's been taught by all great sages across, history. I think it's even, I would say, impregnated and held by Mother Nature. That same lesson. Our quality and our capacity to come into silence within ourselves. And this doesn't mean like meditating in a cave for 5 hours, okay? It just means being able to slow down, understanding how we bonded with the people who took care of us in the first months of our lives and years, how that impacted our neurobiology, and how we express still that person and that personality in all of our relationships. If you think your 4.5-year-old active child is still not present in your relationships, read the book, because science will prove you differently. When I'm having an argument with a partner, or, if your best friend doesn't want to see you one night, or if a colleague just triggers you so badly, every single trigger that you have is a gift for you to reflect on, why did that trigger me? Why do I have this reaction? And how can I repair if needed? Now, imagine looking at the state of the world right now, whether it's in your schools, communities, in your homes, with your own family members, or on the political stage. Look at all the people who seem like they're in a dysregulated state, where they don't even understand why they move the way they do. And, in the book, I interview a great psychologist who's been seeing people for 40 years in her clinic. And she said, Sophie, the most unhappy human beings I've ever met in my whole entire life are the ones who cannot trust in others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have chills just saying
Yes.
this. Because every little kid comes into this life with the inherent nature of trust. They are malleable. They need the adults around them to give them a sense of reality, to give them a sense of validation, to give them a sense of stable love and accompaniment, to have their most basic needs met, right? So depending on how that took shape, and I have fun quizzes in the book for people to take to see, what kind of attachment do you have?
Yes.
It doesn't reflect 100% of who you are as a human being. But here's the thing. Claudia, do you think, are you an extrovert or an introvert? What do you think?
Actually, it took me a while. I'm an introvert.
Okay. So I'm an extrovert. Okay. Now, we can tell each other this for a very long time, but it is just a way for us to describe our personality. And our personality is not who we are. Personality is an accumulation of adaptive behaviors and defense mechanisms. We formed our personality in relationship to the adults who raised us, and we adapted behaviors to be loved and seen and validated. It's just, we all do it. We do it as kids, and we still do it as adults in many ways. That's why it's so hard to understand that we're not fixed in our personality. We can change, we can learn, we can rewire by experience. But this means taking risks, taking leaps. And even if you feel the fear, which I do, like every normal human being, is telling yourself, you know what? I don't want to be impolite here, but push it away here, to be polite. Push it away and go further to see what you're really made of. This is true physically, and this is true mentally. We need good stressors in our lives in order to be able to actually build a resilience to deal with stress in big quantities when it feels overwhelming. So personality is not who we are. We need to be shifting ourselves into a growth mindset instead of being fixed into who we think we are. Because we can't love ourselves if we can't change, and if we think we're just the way we are, and there's like a, almost a grumpiness to it, right?
Yeah.
And we can't love others either if
Mm-hmm.
we're not able to sit in silence and stop identifying. You named the roles that I occupied earlier when you described a bit of my shifts and points of inflection and changes.
Mm-hmm.
I never believed I was a first lady. I never believed I was the wife of somebody to describe who I was. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I was married. Yes, I was an official first lady, but I had a conscious intent to not identify to that. People wanted me to in
Mm-hmm.
different ways, right? Even mothers, we all know as moms, we identify with the role of being a mother. But there's a woman and there's a child in there and there's a human being with so many different facets than just being a mother.
Mm-hmm.
It puts
Mm-hmm.
us in boxes. We don't need to do that.
That's true.
And plus women, we add the guilt and the shame because of the culture that we've been raised in. And it's unbearable, to be honest.
Yeah.
Women's plates are overflowing. It is too
Yes.
much,
It's
and
too
we're
much.
pathologizing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're making ourselves sick by the way
Yes.
we live. And we
Yes.
think that we suffer from sickness, but really our bodies are doing exactly what they should be doing in abnormal circumstances. That's really what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the knowing yourself comes in, right? I mean, if we would know ourselves better or earlier, let's say earlier, then certain things could probably be prevented because we would realize that we change and that it's okay to change and to adapt and to rethink and to, yeah, I don't know, reinvent.
No, change
Everything
is
is
difficult.
change.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Change
Yeah.
is difficult, and the human brain that we share, you and I, and everybody listening, we have the same human brain. It hasn't changed in 200,000 years. But it rewires differently with epigenetics, so the way the environment plays on your DNA and how you change. But I think that we were raised in a culture that is telling us be who you are, go after yourself, build your success by yourself, be a one-man show, a one-woman show, a self-made person. That is complete BS. I don't believe that for a second. Nobody is self-made.
Mhm.
Yes, when you want to do the work of self-knowledge, nobody else can do it for you. Totally true. But every human being that you meet on your path, whether it's a negative or positive encounter,
Mhm.
plays a role on your development
Mhm.
and your process of creating, wealth, whether it's financial, whether it's physical, whether it's social, it's spiritual, whatever that wealth means. But we now understand that there is no wealth everywhere in society without mental wealth. And actually, that's why I wrote the book, so that people could
Yeah.
have access to really basic tools to get to know who they are. This shouldn't be a luxury, and it shouldn't be reserved to elites in the neurobiological biological field,
Yeah, and of course, books like yours and advocates for mental health like you are so important because there's still stigma, there's still such taboo, and we are still working on finding a language around it, right? So it's yeah, I mean it's the ultimate topic, and because of the way we live at the moment and the times that we are living in, which will not be changing, anytime soon, it is becoming an even more important topic. But
and you
maybe
said that you
every
said the
generation said,
yeah, you said the very special magic word earlier, because you said earlier, you said let's teach this as early as possible. And I
mm-hmm,
would say that this, if we teach young people from kindergarten, primary school, and teenagers how to perceive their body reactions before the emotions arise. So let's say, I don't know, your throat is tightening up, your heart rate is heightening, you feel flushed in the face, you're just about to get angry. Okay, for example, if we teach our kids how to perceive what's happening in their bodies, how to sense it, and then to catch the emotion that's rising, saying, okay, my body's talking to me right now, I'm getting angry. So what do? I'm going to take these 5 breaths that I learned in school, or that my mom taught me, or that my cousin taught me, whatever. And I'm going to regulate my little nervous system. Maybe this language is too evolved for a 6-year-old, but I'm going to, I don't know,
mm-hmm,
play with what's happening in my body and bring it back home. Okay.
mm-hmm.
We could be that
Yep.
simple.
Yeah.
And then you do the exercise. So you catch, you pause, and you repair. Because then you don't want to scream at your neighbor or your classmate or your teacher or your lover or your friend, because you understand that it's going to bring you nowhere, first of all. And this doesn't mean that we can't feel emotions. We have to feel them and let the body feel them and your mind feel them intensely, knowing that you're allowing yourself to feel them. Because not feeling your true emotions is a recipe for actually complete disaster. So we have to build spaces where children and teenagers are, and parents who've gone through trauma too, right?
Yes.
So many parents haven't looked at their own trauma and they're leaving that trauma on their kids. And it's not their responsibility to bear. And we all have trauma. I include myself in there.
Yeah.
So it's a big task that we have, but to be honest, Claudia, it's not impossible. It's far from impossible. The greatest sages, the greatest teachers, to be able to calm the mind so we can come into the present moment in a society that constantly pushes you away from the present moment, constantly.
Yeah.
And onto the hedonistic treadmill of accumulation. What more can I get to be happy? What more can I do to be happy? Dr. Gabor Mate, who allowed me to write the book and who was a great mentor of mine, said, there's a difference between happiness and contempt. Because in happiness, from a chemical, neurobiological standpoint, you're excreting hormones like, I don't know, like dopamine, for example, that are they're reward hormones. But with contempt, it's more relaxing hormones. So it's really not the same way of being inside of your body from a cellular level. It's fascinating. But we're constantly being triggered with dopamine highs, right, in our society, with emails, with social media, with eating more, with buying more, with whatever more, right? And then what happens, unfortunately, is that when we're on a dopamine high, it's like a seesaw. The calming hormones become boring to the brain. Now that's a true problem. It's a really true problem. And this is why we're looking for the next high.
The calming moments become boring to the brain. That is really, yeah. I mean, that's how it is.
It makes me want to cry because the natural state of a human being is to feel safe, to feel a sense of belonging, and to feel like they're loved, right?
Yeah.
By nature, by the world, by people. And when we're constantly pushed away from the present moment, we can't really express and feel love, because love is present. It's all it is, really. Am I attuned to you? Am I paying attention to you? We all know the best lovers do that, right? So,
we do.
Yeah. But this is no joke, because when you try to regulate a 4-year-old who's having a crisis, usually a good parent will look at them in the eye, will put a hand on the shoulder, will take the time to come back to homeostasis, to come back home, to come back to a sense of normal inside the little kid's body, where there's the stressor is slowly leaving, the child is feeling better. Tell me how you feel. I'm going to stay here with you until you feel better. There is no rush. When's the last time you were told that by an adult?
Well, a yoga teacher, I guess.
Yeah, that's why I still teach. And I'm a student. It's so funny what you just said, because I'm sure this is true for a lot of people. Like, if you're listening right now, think about the last time an adult was so present with you, gave you their time, their attention, that you almost felt like, wow, am I deserving of all this, carrying and gifting and presence and gaze and love and touch? Well, the answer is yes. It's a really profound need that human beings have. And you can live an entire life, would be unfortunate, but without sexuality. Like, you wouldn't die, right? But touch for survival is extremely important. So we can't really survive without human touch. That's why isolation is a form of torture, right?
Yeah. When we go circle back to one of your pivots that you've kind of that you shared and listed, what is the one that you would like to go a little bit deeper into and share a few more personal experiences, like the transforming of your marriage in the public eye, or how you healed
So
yourself from the eating disorder, or your father's
yeah,
loss. I mean, it's so much.
yeah,
One just goes through them like this, and they're all such huge momentums, probably.
I think, and this is universal. This is not unique to me. Those experiences that I listed because they are part of my life. But
Yeah.
what I realized by traveling, by meeting humans, by being a mental health advocate, by raising kids, is that such a universality to our problems, to our losses, to our grief, to our suffering. And the difference between suffering and trauma, suffering is part of life. It's going to happen. The great question that I love contemplating is, when do you want your pain? Now or later? You
Mm-hmm.
choose, because it's going to come.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. Right? Unfortunately, it is. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're not so afraid of pain as a process of discovery, as a process of breaking open in the more hardened spaces inside of you, then you give yourself a chance to not close in with time, with your
Mm-hmm.
emotions and what you're keeping inside, which is the difference between suffering and trauma. Suffering
Mm-hmm.
is normal, it's part of human life, but trauma is all, the difference between the two is constriction, and is what you held in captivity,
Mm-hmm.
dark inside, like all crumpled up in a little ball, and you
Mm-hmm.
haven't been looking at it. It will come back to haunt you. So,
Mm-hmm.
whether I was suffering from eating disorders, by the way, eating disorders are all like any other type of addiction: sex, television, relationships, gambling, name it. We all have micro habits. If I were to ask you now, Claudia, or anybody listening, try to find a habit that you have in your life that gives you temporary relief when you do it, okay? But in the long term, it's not so good for you or for the people around you. So try to find one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the definition of an addiction. So it could be,
Interesting.
those
Mm-hmm.
those 2 or 3 glasses of wine. It could be heroin. It could be crack. It could be relationships. It could be, eating
Certain
sugar.
behavior in it. Yep.
It could be
Mm-hmm.
addiction to social media. It could be too much shopping. Whatever it is that gives you a temporary relief, like right? Same
Mm-hmm.
reward, incentive, pleasures in the brain. And every addiction, we shouldn't look at the addiction itself, whether it's the eating disorder or the list of addictions that exist. We have to look at the pain underlying the addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for the eating disorder in my life. Then the transformation of my marriage, letting go of pain, right? Processing pain and learning to let go of attachment.
Mm-hmm.
So freaking hard. So hard.
Very hard.
Because we're wired for attachment,
Mm-hmm.
but to become a mature adult, our responsibility is to express, study, work at our authentic self, and letting go of attachment.
Mm-hmm.
I heard not too long ago that if somebody loves you for how you make them feel, they will be afraid to lose you.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody loves you for who you are, they will be afraid to hurt you.
Yes,
And that pretty much sums up all
it
relationships and
does.
our bonds of
Mm-hmm.
attachment and
Yeah,
how we
yeah, yeah, yeah,
express.
yeah.
And whether it's the loss of my father, again, letting go of attachment, letting go of the clinging to life itself.
Mm-hmm.
We cling to a youth, right? We're obsessed with youth, right?
Mm-hmm.
From our hair to our faces, to our bodies, to our genitals, to our everything. We are brainwashed and hijacked in our emotional systems with the obsession of youth.
Of youth. Mm-hmm.
And we're paying a great, great, great price for this. A great price. Not only are we dehumanizing our bodies and leaving a legacy to young people that is hard to understand for them, and And for us, it's our
And so
normal.
frightening also, yeah, so frightening and so unnatural. It's put so much pressure. It's like, ugh, please, let's stop it.
And it's also, I would say making us all look the same in
Mm-hmm.
different ways, like from the forehead to the lips to the eyes to the we're creating like an avatar of what a true human being is. And are we truly noticing the price to pay for what we're doing? Because there is a high price.
Yeah.
And we're losing wisdom to this. We're losing
Mm-hmm.
closeness. We're losing community because when we start really being so obsessed with how we look and how we, do we conform to the norms? We lose our authentic selves. And when we lose our authentic selves, we lose creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And when we lose creativity, listen to this. Brene Brown said this. She said, creativity unleashed or unprocessed metastasizes. And that word is well chosen because, for example, all the women across the world who put their needs last, who tend to the needs of all the people before they do to theirs, have something like 75% more chances of developing autoimmune diseases.
Yep.
MS, fibromyalgia, lupus, name it. And this is being studied and it's real because when we can't express our true selves, when we can't be our creative self, which is what human beings are called for on this earth. And creativity is not just a form of art, it's a form of expression, it's a form of relationship, it's a form of sexual encounter, it's a form of contemplation of life. Creativity is all around us and it's inside of us. And children are creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we lose creativity, we lose touch with who we truly are. And when we lose touch with who we truly are, we adopt behaviors that are not ours in order to please. When we do this, we create inflammation because we're in resistance and in fighting mode instead of being in creation mode. And when we create inflammation inside our bodies, disease can set in.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
now we understand that the emotional system and the immune system, for example, they have the same role to push away what's negative, what's not good for you, whether it's in a friendship or, in a foreign virus, and to keep what's good, the good bacteria in your gut or the healthy relationship with your friend. They work together. We've been separating them forever. If they're not intertwined and they're not dealt with as a symbiotic duo, we become sick.
Yeah.
We just do. I know it's so complex and it's so simple all at the same
And yeah,
time.
exactly. It's so simple. And yeah, I guess writing about it, reading about it, sharing one's experiences and wisdom about it, and always breaking it down to a level that everybody, not only the 4-year old, but the teenager and the twin and the new parents and the newly
Yeah.
divorced and the midlife crisis people. Yeah. I mean, that's just, how can we reach each other in all these different stages because they're all part of life. And
I like
it's
what you said with the word reach. I like that, Claudia, because a baby will extend their arms to reach for the parent, right? We extend an arm to a neighbor to help. We extend our heart to a friend to give love and support. Relationships are not just about you and me, but it's the space in between. And
mm-hmm,
what I've learned in writing this book, and I love that you said that, this book can be read by, I would say starting at easy 12 years old
mm-hmm,
up to 99, because what I tackled in the heart of this book is the human experience and the arc of personality and how we build ourselves. And because I reached out to some of the best experts in the book, I learned a lot, by the way, when I was writing this book. And what I learned is that we can't regulate two brains at the same time. Okay, so unless you're like, I don't know, in a yoga room or in a community room and everybody's meditating together or they're singing together or they're dancing together or they're maybe holding each other,
mm-hmm.
for more than 30 seconds, that's called co-regulation. And but the thing is, when you're in a relationship, whether it's a coworker, a lover, a friend, whatever, a child, you can't bring somebody who's in distress back home and back into calm if you're trying to regulate the two brains at the same time. So this means If you were mad at me right now, Claudia, I would have to just look at you in the eyes and have a calming, reassuring face expression, okay? And listen to you without interjecting, without suggesting, or without commenting. By the way, I'm not perfect at this, okay? I have it wrong many times. I had two teenagers, trust me. But you would need at least 10 minutes
Mm-hmm.
to truly come back. So think about the baby who's got a mother who's got, I don't know, two other siblings who's already, asking for her attention. And the first child hurt themselves and, she's patting them on the back. Okay, now go play because your sister needs my help. You know, the amount of time that we actually spend with each other as children or children adult or adult to adult is so important to give ourselves the time to regulate and
Mm-hmm.
to calm down, to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel validated without feeling judged as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to, you're going to come into a fiery discussion with a coworker or an argument with your loved one, it's really important to let the other talk and speak and listen without judging. And then you have your turn. It's important to give each other turns. Now, another trick is to lay down on the ground because your mammalian brain, it kind of like, it goes like into safe mode. Like, okay, if I can lie down, it's because there's not a saber-toothed tiger in the room. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Mm-hmm.
lying down beside somebody can help. They say also that when you're driving, when you're in with the kids in the car or with somebody that you like, and you look forward, there's lots of conversation that arise because apparently when you go at a certain speed and you're focused, your gaze is focused forward,
Mm-hmm.
and you're in a space where you can't get out, right? You can't slam the door and say, well, you can, but it's more difficult to get out of the room and say, I'm leaving the house or whatever, right? Um, it sets a kind of like a climate
Mm-hmm.
for regulation. So next
Mm-hmm.
time, if maybe today or tomorrow or in the next weeks to come, you feel in your body the high emotion rising, feel it, all good, superhuman, then catch it. Okay, this is what's happening. Take a couple of breaths, do your vagus nerve exercises. We could do one at the end if you want. And in the book, I
Yes,
have
please.
many
Mm-hmm.
exercises that you can try.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
simple, they don't take a lot of time. Sometimes it takes even 2 minutes to
Mm-hmm.
regulate fully. So there's a way of creating more, I would say, consistent self-regulation in our lives. And it's really not sorcery. And it's not cuckoo new age either. It's really attainable, scientifically backed tools that we can just use in our daily lives. Micro
Oh yeah,
habits.
I
They
mean,
change everything.
just taking a few deep breaths. Yeah, I mean, I find it's a miracle.
It
Really,
is
it's a
a
miracle that
miracle.
it does. Yeah. Um, I want to circle also back to what you were talking about earlier, this obsession with youth, and that brings me to our friend Dale Haddon. Um,
Yeah.
and Dale passed away in the end of December, and was a dear person. And she also was on my podcast, and she talked about how we need to embrace every age as it comes and every phase as it comes. And she as a revolutionary mind and person in the world of beauty and fashion was really a trailblazer. So, and you also spoke so beautifully about her at her celebration, at the celebration of her life. And since this season is dedicated to her, maybe you can also just share now towards the end a little bit about your friendship with her and about your experiences with her.
Yeah. With great pleasure, with great honor. I'm going to try to not become too emotional, because we don't have many older women friends who look
Hmm.
over us. And she was one of them.
Hmm.
Dale Haddon was a supermodel. She was the face of L'Oreal for the people who don't know her, of aging naturally. She had, black hair, blue, piercing, luminescent blue eyes. And if
Hmm.
you Googled her, you would see, oh, of course I grew up with her, right? I remember her face.
Yeah.
She had a reassuring gaze. There was a mother, but also a child in her appearance. And of all the things that I got to learn over time with Gail, she was a woman's woman. She supported women around her. She was not in competition with women around her.
No.
And the fact that, of all people, she had immense pressure to look youthful as a model. She was also an author and a dancer, and she did so many things, and an actor in her life, and a mother. But Gail kept, I would say, her child healthy. She was playful.
Mm-hmm.
She was easy to make laugh. She would dance easily and giggle easily. And it felt to me like she wasn't resisting life.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great Lao Tzu saying, it says, him who flows with life needs no other force.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, Gail exuded that. It's like there was an inner force to her, and God knows she didn't have, and the goddesses know, that she didn't have an easy life. That woman went through a lot of loss and pain, a lot of it, without going into details.
Mm-hmm.
But she's probably feeling us right now, watching over us, like she was a guiding friend to me. And I'm sure she's giggling still, because she loved life and she had a sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And at her funeral, I used the quote by David Whyte, who's a great poet, who said that innocence is one's capacity to be found by the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that moves me to tears, because because it's going back to the inner child. Because what we are truly trying to do here is to reparent ourselves and reparent the planet as the best parent possible. This is not to say we didn't have good parents, but we abused the planet. We abused ourselves.
Yeah.
We abused each other. And our capacity to regain the innocence and the naivety of the child looking at each other and the world with curiosity and compassion is key to keeping democracies healthy. And our democracies are eroding, and they're becoming brittle. And of course, legislature and governments and social justice and taking care of the environment, all that is extremely important. But if we don't learn how we're built as human beings and how we can intervene on our own state of body and mind, we will not be able to adapt to all of the changes that we're facing, especially that they're coming at such a fast pace with AI, that there is a sense of urgency. That sense of urgency is a call to action. We can't let it overwhelm us, because we all know that climate change anxiety is real, that, feeling overwhelmed by the rhythm of the world is real. And, in my book, I interviewed the head of the Department of Mental Health at the Ottawa Royal in Ontario here in Canada. And he said that, a healthy brain is one that is in tune and can meet the rhythm of its environment. It's quite cool. Like if you look at the scans or the whatever modulations of a depressed person's brain, apparently the modulations are very, very slow and very large. And the depressed person will feel like they can't even get out of bed. They can't keep up with the rhythm of life. And how can we keep up, to be honest, with this rhythm that is so unhuman? And and I talk about this in the book, and it's really cool to learn, every human being on this planet has obviously a brain and an autonomic nervous system. And we have two branches to the autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic branch, which is your fight, flight, or freeze. We all have a tendency to where we go to when we're triggered. And the parasympathetic branch, which is your rest and digest. So it's more of a calming state. So like you and I, Claudia, and anybody listening, throughout a day, we'll titrate and we'll dance from one sympathetic to the parasympathetic and vice versa. But because of the way that we live, our disconnection from each other, our social isolation, our stressors in everyday life that are not good stress, that are bad stressors, what's happening is that we're keeping human beings for too long or too quick, too fast into fight, flight, or freeze. Now, when we stay in this state for too long, too quick, or too fast, what happens? woof, the
Yeah.
body shuts
Crash.
down completely and says,
Mm-hmm.
I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And then we get people who are in darkness and depression,
Mm-hmm.
and we judge it. We should
Mm-hmm.
not, because
No, we
these
should not.
people's bodies, right? We should not, because these people bodies are sending them the signal of, you can't keep it up the way you used to.
Mm.
And by the way that we deal with the stressors of life have to do with how we were raised and our childhood bond of attachment. So this is why in the book I really start with the early childhood
To
years
start.
into the teenage
Mm-hmm.
years and the adulthood and the aging brain, so we all understand
Mm.
why is it that I act and react the way I do in my relationships today? Why? Without knowing the why, where are we going?
Yeah.
This is crucial work. Crucial work.
Yeah. It really is, and it's so well done in your book with the different examples, with the different interviews, with your personal perspective. It's I think it was really cleverly done, and then also the exercises, that gives you immediately an opportunity to practice and to implement, and but it's a safe space because it's a book and you can do it at your own terms. So then maybe we can, towards the end of this unbelievable conversation, and I could go on for hours. Um,
Yeah, but I see we're
but
reaching the end.
yeah, we're reaching the end. But maybe because we still have 2 minutes, we can do this vagus nerve exercise that you talked about. I'm all yours.
With pleasure. So just so you know, your vagus nerve, every human being has the vagus nerve. It's the longest cranial nerve in your body, and it starts at the base of the brains, like the brain stem right here. And
Hmm.
it goes through, the face, below the ears, the throat region, the chest, your whole abdomen, and the lower belly. And it regulates dozens of functions in your body: heartbeat, heart rate, um, um, salivation, pupil dilation, digestion. And believe this or not, 75% of the signals exchange between your gut brain and your head brain.
Hmm.
75% is sent by the gut to the brain.
To the brain.
So we cannot divide those two either. So what you eat, how you sleep, how you move, what you bring your attention to, and who you hang out with becomes your body, becomes you. So
Hmm.
this practice is a quick vagus nerve reset. We can affect the vagus nerve in different ways through breathing exercises, through some types of touch. And we're going to try this one because it's easy to do sitting. So if you're sitting right now, or you're lying down, that's fine too. Make sure that you take one deep breath through the nose and out through the mouth. So in through the nose, 4, 3, 2, 1, and sigh it out the mouth. And bring the shoulders away from the ears and make your tailbone and your hips heavy and your legs heavy and your whole lower body like heavy, like a rock in a riverbed, super heavy. And if you're sitting, make the upper body almost weightless, as if it was a loving presence pulling you upwards toward the sky through your whole spine. And send your shoulders away from your ear loops. And notice if you're trying to constrict the breath or control anything in your breath, just let it go. Just let yourself be breathed. You don't have to do anything here. You're always in doing mode. We are human beings, not human doings. This is our true nature. So one last time through the nose on a count of 4. Inhale, 3, 2, 1. Sigh it out the mouth. Now, I want you to, if you have your eyes closed, that's fine, but you want to look at me just for 2 seconds. You're going to inhale your right arm up to the sky and place it on the left-hand side of your head and tilt your head towards the right. You're going to feel a stretch in the left portion of the neck. Tuck the chin in a little bit towards the chest. And here, relax your jaw. Relax the tongue and the mouth. Make space between your eyebrows. Relax your jaw even more. And just sense, don't think. Sense with patience and tenderness the stretch in the side of the neck. And with both eyes, stay exactly where you are. And with both eyes, look to the opposite corner of where your head is leaning to. Both eyes gaze to the opposite corner of where your head is leaning to. Now, we only have a couple of seconds left here with your breath breathing you. So just notice how patient you are with yourself. Do you want to get out of it? Are you analyzing? Let it go. All your thoughts are just passing clouds. Just make your belly soft and your gaze soft. Soften your mouth and soften your throat. And on your next inhale, come back up very slowly. Oh. And roll whatever needs to be rolled. And we're going to take, inhale our left arm up to the sky. Exhale it, place it on the right-hand side of the head and tilt the head to the left. Tuck the chin in towards the chest a little bit. And this time feel the stretch in the right side of the neck and shoulder. Notice if you're holding on to the breath, let it breathe you. Your body knows exactly what to do. All you have to do is witness it with vulnerable tenderness. Both eyes now look to the opposite side of where your head is leaning to. Notice if you're holding tension in your jaw or between the eyebrows, let it go. It's time to let go. We're safe, we're good, and everything's going to be okay no matter what. Everything's going to be okay no matter what. And come back up with the head and just get rid of any tensions. You can roll the shoulders. One last breath through the nose and out the mouth. And just feel in a couple of seconds what you created in 2 minutes. Just sense it and imagine if every human being had access to this at every time in their life, because we do actually. So I invite you to use it as much as possible.
Yes, yes.
And to know that we're never strangers on this path. And it was such an honor to be able to be part of your journey, Claudia, and this great podcast. And I send you all my best.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. This was really a highlight. Thank you so much, Sophie.
Be well.
Yes, you as well. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.